life always this hard? Just when you're a kid?
Always like this.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Video Section, the show where each episode we take a look back at a classic movie from the VHS era. My name is Josh, and his name is Steven. What's shaking, Steven?
What's up, man?
Not too much, man. Just looking forward to discussing this film.
Uh-oh. We're discussing films?
Yeah, I didn't get back to you on that. That's actually what this podcast is going to be about.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. We'll just wing our way through it. It'll be fine.
All right.
Today, we're discussing Leon the Professional, which is only Leon the Professional in the U.S. It's just Leon everywhere else. Or as I like to refer to it, holy shit, is he gonna fuck that kid? Because that was a serious problem I had. That was a concern. The film was released in 1994. That was a good year. I was a freshman in high school. That was a fun year. Love some 94.
I started pre-K.
Woo! Yeah, a little different life situations going on at the time. But that's what I like about the show. We're coming to you guys with different perspectives.
Yeah, I'm the voice of the youths on this show.
You are, and I'm the voice of the boomers, the fucking old man, the crotchety old fuck, and I'm just fine with that.
Okay, boomer.
I got no problem with it. Fucking wear that as a badge of honor.
Oh, God.
You fucking kids these days, I swear to God.
Holy shit.
Yeah, you're right behind me, man. Don't get too comfortable. Leon the Professional, released in 1994, directed by Luc Besson, I guess it would be. These fucking French names, I swear to God, we've been hitting on them hard lately. I'm going to go with Luc Besson, who also directed The Fifth Element and Lucy. I've actually not seen Lucy. Actually liked The Fifth Element, which maybe that's something we can fight about later because I feel like you did not. It was written by Luc Besson. Cinematography by Thierry Arbogast. See, I can do Thierry because I'm a soccer fan. So there's a billion fucking Thierrys in the soccer world. He's mostly known for working with Luc Besson. Seems to be the majority of his major work. The cast includes Jean Reno, Gary Oldman, and a young Natalie Portman in her first ever film role. And let's not forget, last but not least, Danny Aiello once again.
Dan the man.
I fucking love that guy. Oh, he's fucking awesome. Composition by Eric Serra, who it looks like he almost pretty much works exclusively with Besson, who seems to be keeping a lot of these motherfuckers in business, man. Several people involved in this production seem to work primarily with him.
And I guess it's time for a spoiler alert.
I guess it is.
Any discussion beyond this point can and probably will contain movie-ruining spoilers, of course, because you are listening to a movie review podcast. Now, if you have been keeping up with us on the IG and Twitter, you already know that we were going to be reviewing this movie, so you probably already watched it. If you have not and would like to stop here and go see the movie, you can find it at the taping of this episode on Amazon Prime for rent and purchase. DVD, of course, Blu-ray, and I think there is a 4K version out there for all my quality nerds. And, of course, VHS, if you can find it.
VHS always. Yeah, I ended up renting this on Amazon, and I thought it was interesting because it is actually labeled as The Professional on Amazon, but then when you hit play, it says Leon the Professional. I don't really understand this whole name issue. I don't know why the fuck it...
Stupid United States marketing bullshit.
Yeah, why the fuck it couldn't just been called Leon like everywhere else in the world, but so be it.
I'm going to call it Leon.
I think I will too. So 1994, like we mentioned, it was a great year, a very different year for the both of us.
I remember it distinctly.
You remember being 4? I don't remember shit from being 4.
Oh, yeah, I remember everything that happened
God
in
damn.
1994.
Wow, you're a fucking prodigy.
I got the memory of an elephant. What can I say?
Yeah. Do you have other parts like an elephant? That's
I got the trunk to match.
Hey. So this is also the year, to give you a little context for what was going on in the world, O.J. Simpson was arrested and charged with double homicide. And I don't know if you remember that or not, Mr. Elephant Brain, but that was fucking huge, dude. That dominated the news feeds. That was pretty much all anybody was talking about. And from the initial arrest to the legendary Bronco chase, I call it a chase, although they did about 35 fucking miles an hour for 2 hours. I don't know if that's a chase. A follow, maybe?
Yeah.
That was definitely huge. And to go into the public perception of the movie at the time, I know it's not that, well, it's 26 years ago, but we want to lay a little groundwork for that, see kind of how it was received. It was the 72nd highest grossing overall film in the U.S. To say lukewarm is an understatement. I don't think this movie, for whatever reason, really had much of a chance, either from the marketing. I never had heard of this film until about a year ago, quite honestly. It has since become beloved, and that may be in part because the movie was extended to its original version, the version that the director intended to come out before it got completely chopped up, which also, too, I need to throw in there. We are reviewing the extended version. We are not reviewing the theatrical version. This is the film that we felt that Luc Besson wanted us to see, so it's the one that we watched. And as far as the critical perception of the movie at the time, it got pretty good reviews. It was a little lukewarm from Ebert, who complained about the direction. Now, do you have any thoughts on why he may have had an issue with the direction?
Yeah, because he saw the theatrical version.
Yes, and I feel like at some point I've got to go back and watch that just to see exactly what they cut out. I can only guess. I have some suspicions because there are a few problematic scenes and themes in this movie.
Yeah, let me put some of that to rest. They flesh out the main characters a little bit more, and so you get an opportunity to understand their dynamic in greater detail, so it's not nearly as mysterious as it is in the theatrical version, which I think is entirely necessary, and I cannot possibly understand why people were clutching their pearls over the scenes that were removed.
Yeah, I don't really either, because I feel like, if anything, context is key to this movie. We're talking about a French story from a French director, and we all know they play a little fast and loose when it comes to ethics regarding younger children. And that may be a bit of an understatement as well. I do know that, part of the reason it was recut was definitely from test audience, from screening audiences in Los Angeles. Apparently had a huge problem with some things that were eventually cut out. Surface
level things, like a scene of them both laying in the bed together at the same time, which is completely platonic, by the way. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But
okay,
it gave a whole lot of context to these characters that I think served the opposite purpose. They just didn't like that scene at a surface level, and they didn't stop to think about what these people were doing and saying, what their actions were meant to be. They just saw it and was like, "Ooh, that makes me uncomfortable."
Yeah,
which I think pretty much sums up the United States in general, but I don't want to make huge blanket statements.
I don't think you're that far off. We're overreactionary as a society. If we don't like it, we don't want it to exist. So I don't know that that's inaccurate at all.
What were some other movies that were going on that year?
The Lion King, Simba. I know that's probably a huge staple for you.
My favorite Disney movie.
Yeah, I had to disappoint my children and let them know that I had never seen it, because that shit came out when I was 15 and I was not trying to watch Disney cartoons. So I was actually sat down and strapped to a chair and forced to watch this about a year ago. And not a bad film. I feel like it was maybe right there at the end of that little late resurgence golden age for Disney cartoons.
Yeah, the golden age, man.
Little Mermaid, Aladdin, that era, it kind of went off the rails after that. But also, too, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Forrest Gump.
Ooh, classic.
Classic. I mean, I don't know anyone that hasn't seen Forrest Gump. It's a bit, I don't know. We can go into that another time. Maybe we do Forrest Gump, but it actually won Best Picture that year, which really pissed me off because I was on the Pulp Fiction side of that fence, but I guess that's neither here nor there. Definitely would say Forrest Gump was the bigger movie. I'll give it that.
I'm standing behind Forrest Gump.
I hear you. Well, we can agree to disagree there. Steven, I want to know, before watching this movie for this episode, have you ever seen this movie before?
I have seen it a couple years ago when, I can't remember what I was doing, but a buddy of mine lent me a bunch of movies. And I just was like mowing through a bunch of classic films, and this was one of the ones that he gave me. It was like in a duffel bag full of amazing movies, and I ended up watching through this one, and it stuck out to me. It did.
Yeah, I had not actually even heard of this movie until maybe 3 or 4 months ago, just randomly discussing movies. My wife brought it up, and I told her I hadn't seen it. She's like, holy shit, you've got to see this. So I actually watched it about 3 or 4 months before watching it the other day to prepare for this show. And I know that's not a lot of time difference, but I definitely noticed things in this viewing I didn't in the last, maybe because I was concentrating on it, sitting there by myself. But at both times, I thought it was a pretty good film.
Yeah, this is a movie I believe that you could rewatch 1 or 2 or 3 times. I don't know that it would hold up to like decades of rewatching every year, but I don't know. We'll get into that in a little bit. Shall we start talking about the movie?
Let's do it.
All right. So if you have not seen the movie, or if you have seen the movie but you don't necessarily remember all the details, let me refresh your memory with a very shitty plot summary.
Shit it up.
Here we go. A seasoned hitman reluctantly teaches a 12-year-old orphan how to become an assassin.
And I think that pretty much captures everything you need to know about this film.
Yeah, except the nuance is important because their relationship is awkward, to say the least. And we're going to be, I don't know, maybe touching on some very uncomfortable territory with this. I will tell you, this movie cannot possibly be discussed on the internet without a conversation about pedophilia. And I gotta say, I kind of was on that train the first time I watched the movie because I saw the theatrical version. It is a much more mysterious relationship, and it's not as well fleshed out as the extended cut. But Josh, you and I have seen the extended cut. Can we start there? Basic story. How do you feel about the story? And that might segue into the elephant in the room, which would be the relationship of the 2 main characters.
The story, it's pretty, let's be honest, it's pretty unbelievable. I mean, you've got a seasoned hitman teaching a little girl how to be a hit person, hit woman, whatever the correct term would be. That being said, I think that it's really well written in that 90s action hitman way, and not in a cliche type of way. It's written really well. The story flows. It's a bit over the top at times, but this movie is what it is, and it hits the ground running and doesn't really fucking stop.
I agree. And let me, for the listeners out there, let me just give you a little bit more context because we've talked about how context is important in this movie. This young girl, played by Natalie Portman, her parents are murdered by a very crooked DEA agent played by Gary Oldman. Leon, who is, well, I don't know, somewhere between 40 and 50 in this movie, you know, very mysterious assassin type dude. He kind of sees this play out and essentially rescues her from getting killed as well. Takes her under his wing. But the problem is that Natalie Portman's character, Matilda, is 12 years old, and she falls in love, in quotations, with Leon, who, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, he feels a little slow. At a bare minimum, he seems like he's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of OCD, he's very particular. He doesn't really know how to express his feelings to other people. And Matilda's exactly the opposite. She's very upfront about how she's feeling, even if it's wrong. So she's telling him the whole time about how she loves him and how they're lovers. And, you know, she tells other people in the movie that they're lovers. And it's very awkward to hear for me. I got to be honest.
It is. It's a bit problematic. And to say the man drinks gallons of milk a day, he takes care of plants in a compulsive way. He has this one plant that he absolutely loves. He sleeps sitting up with sunglasses. The motherfucker's autistic at the very least. A high functioning. There's definitely some. I guess maybe spectrum's a good word. There's definitely something socially awkward and despondent about him, and which makes it, you know, interesting that this young girl comes into his life that's so forward. And so almost, I mean, she is overly sexualized from the minute you see her in the film. She's trying to be 20 years old. You know, she's the first time we see her, she's smoking a cigarette. She's trying to make charming banter with Leon, you know, but all of this, I think personally, is a product of the house that she grew up in, which you get a look at, and it is not fucking good.
Yeah, perhaps. And maybe to go a little bit further into that, she even does a fashion show for him where she dresses up as one of the characters was Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, Madonna.
And Madonna, and she sings Like a Virgin.
Yeah.
Touched for the very first time. It's very, very awkward because Leon is sitting there watching this. He has no idea what to do. Though maybe I'm just a product of the American culture that I grew up in. That makes me uncomfortable because the whole movie, the first time I'm seeing it, is like, okay, this dude is like, I'm just waiting for him to take advantage of her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
And I feel bad saying that was a thought that I had, but I'm scared for this girl the whole time. And the spoiler alert, that never happens. He never makes anything even remotely sexual of an advance toward her.
And you can tell that it makes him uncomfortable too. And I think that's
very uncomfortable.
That's the only way you get away with making this movie, even 26 years ago, is you got to have him be completely uninterested in her advances, which he was. He did not entertain them in the slightest. And you could tell it made him super uncomfortable too. But I think they could have gone down a road to where if he even questions the thought of it for a second, this is a completely different movie.
Yeah, I mean, well, you talk about dramas and TV shows, and especially Netflix and Amazon shows now, they are so edgy that, I mean, these are the shows that I watched. You know what I mean? Yeah. Shows about murder, homicide, assassination, pedophilia, all sorts of crime shows and stuff like that. They don't pull any punches. That is actually what happens. And so I guess I'm conditioned to think there's no way this person can just be good. This is going to turn into some sort of weird, edgy something that I'm conditioned to see. And it didn't. I'm glad it didn't. I mean,
no.
But it made me uncomfortable the whole time. And I need to say this too, because this really bothers me. I don't know why Luke, the director, would ever want to make a movie where this sort of awkward situation for an audience exists. Why would you want to be coy or mysterious or, you know, questionable about that kind of subject matter? It just doesn't make sense to me. I'll have you know that one of his original scripts actually included them having a relationship.
Oof.
Yeah, and he decided against it.
Yeah.
So you can't say that his motivations were just completely pure, because they weren't. He changed it based on the reactions from the people that funded the movie and crowd reactions that were seeing some of the screen tests. Why the fuck would you want to do that?
I don't know what the fuck goes on in France, man. I'll be honest with you. I've never been there, but it does seem like they have gotten a reputation of being way inappropriate with little kids. And I don't know if that's stereotype. I don't know if it's maybe they just don't have the same sense of Christian taboo that we have in this country. But, man, if you had shown me this movie and I had no idea who wrote it, who directed it, and you gave me 3 guesses as to what the nationality was, French would have absolutely been in there. That seems to be something that follows the French around. But I don't know. To me, like I said earlier, if it had gone down that route, I don't know that this movie ever would have been made. And if it was, I can't see myself being able to get behind it.
Yeah. And if you made me guess who directed it, I would have said Roman Polanski.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. That would have been in there as well.
All right, so we've covered the elephant in the room, right? I don't want to like dwell on that. So maybe we should move on to some more or less specific options. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I think we've covered it.
Yeah, so face value, maybe the direction in this movie would be a good place to start, because this was Luke's, not his first effort ever, but I think his first English-speaking film, and definitely the first English film that kind of put him on the map. The Fifth Element was what he wanted to do originally. This was a placeholder movie for him, and this was his first introduction to American audiences. That being said, this is distinctly watchable to me, better than most of his other movies, even if you take into account some of the things that I don't like about his direction style, his penchant for letting his actors go way over the top with their performances, so much so that I feel like he encourages that, which works sometimes, like it does in this film, and does not work like in The Fifth Element.
Are you saying that Chris Tucker went a little over the top in The Fifth Element?
I'm saying he should have just played his character in Rush Hour, and it would have been way more watchable.
Yeah, I would say that wasn't a shining moment of that film.
Also, wasn't Gary Oldman in that movie too?
Dude, it's been a very long time since I've seen The Fifth Element. So,
and I kind of
he was the bad guy in that as well.
Yeah, and I kind of half-ass feel, however far you think he went over the top in Leon, he went 2 times further in The Fifth Element, and he was my biggest bone of contention for this movie, and he made The Fifth Element worse, which I hate to say because I love Gary Oldman. I have a great respect for what he does.
Yeah, that's it's tough for me because I love the man so much. He is definitely hands down one of my favorite actors.
Oh,
Fucking love Gary Oldman. He is the man.
Insanely talented.
But he does take it a little far, and I think it's probably a lot of the writing involved with what that character ultimately became. I mean, at the end of the day, he's like a DEA agent or director who's, corrupt beyond means. I mean, shit that would never. I mean, we go back to the unrealistic aspect. There's no way in fuck he's getting away with half the shit he does at his position. So from the start, it's a bit of a ridiculous character, and I do think that he took it way, way overboard. That being said, I still enjoyed the performance.
Oh, fun to watch.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about Gary Oldman. I could watch him, I don't know, eat a sandwich, I guess, and it would be entertaining. But you're kind of onto something with it was kind of ridiculous from the beginning. So he may have sensed that and just went overboard.
And maybe he was directed to be. He just told, just fucking go nuts.
Exactly. And that's the words that were just about to come out of my mouth. I think a lot of that is from Luke. But these situations and circumstances these characters are in are fantastical, ridiculous, borderline retarded from the get-go. So it doesn't really matter. But I would say writing, directing, performances all rolled into one, they become maybe a little bit better than the sum of their parts, right?
Yeah.
They all kind of work together to become a very watchable film that I enjoyed. So I know I'm sitting here kind of shitting on it, but I like the movie for the most part.
That's what we're doing here. We're pointing out our opinions and views on different aspects of the film. We're not trying to chop it into pieces, but you know, like we've mentioned before, you can have an imperfect movie that you enjoy. You know, at the end of the day, it's all about entertainment. So, yeah, it takes a lot of suspension of disbelief in some movies. This one, for sure. But it doesn't mean that it's a bad film. And I don't think that it is.
Let me highlight something that I think was really good in this movie. The cinematography was really, really good to me.
Yes.
But I am a sucker for that sultry, hazy 90s New York City. Opening shot to very ending shot. I know that they didn't shoot every single bit of it in New York City, but most of the exterior shots were so good. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. It's really done well. You get that hazy, foggy feel, which is what I think of when I think of New York in the summer. It was, there's not a lot I can add to that. It was just really well done. Subtle at times, but really well executed.
Yeah, I can smell the streets in the summer right now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. It's disgusting. It smells like piss, sweat, and like the occasional whiff of sewage.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to kind of just lightly touch on the music in this film because it was like a very schizophrenic outcome for me. There were times when I felt like this is some of the cheesiest score I've ever fucking heard in my life. And then there were times where I felt like the music was really well done and well placed. Which was odd because I'm not used to, you know, not that it has to be a love it or hate it, but to go back and forth so much in a movie. I mean, there were certain scenes where, you know, there was maybe a little Spanish guitar thrown in it. It was just really, really cliche, really off-putting. But there were other times where I felt like it really lent and built towards what was going on in the movie and kind of made you feel something. So I think it was a bit odd for it to go back and forth like that. I'm a little curious to know what you felt about it.
I completely agree. In some aspects, it was inspired, moving, and compelling. It pushed the scene further. It accented what was going on in the film. But in other times, it was as bad and as cheesy and as 90s as the music from GoldenEye, which is some of the worst fucking music ever. And in other times, yeah, you called out that like flamenco Spanish guitar type thing. It was like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah.
Like, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, it really did just bounce back and forth really, really hard. And another thing is the fact that I guess maybe the flamenco, the Spanish music, Leon is supposed to be Italian in this movie.
True.
And he's about as French of a guy as I've ever seen in my life. I never at any point until the very end of the film where they mention a tall Italian man had no idea he was supposed to be Italian because I mean he is a stereotypical Frenchman. I mean from look to accent, nothing about that spoke Italian. So I don't know, maybe they were trying to do that to enhance the fact that he's supposed to be an Italian man.
Yeah. Speaking of, I love watching that man work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. I thought he was great. And I don't really have a lot of experience with his films. I don't think I've seen him in a ton of things.
No, me either, man. But every time I see him on screen, he kind of just blends in so well that I forget. Like he was in, most recently that I saw him, he was in The Da Vinci Code as some random French character opposite Tom Hanks. And I got about 3/4 through that movie and I was like, oh shit, that's Leon.
Oh, fuck. I got to go back and watch that, man.
Yeah, it was, I mean, he did such a great job, but it was, you know, he just blended in so well. And of course, we cannot talk about this movie without talking about Natalie Portman's performance in it.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I thought, at 12 years old, I mean, going back, you can see why she became what she became. I mean,
she was 10 when she got the role.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I thought, especially excelled at any scene where she had to portray emotion when she's upset, when she comes to the door after her family just got murdered,
yes.
and that
Yes.
crying, she's like, "Please open the door." It was
Please.
yeah, it was. I mean, that shit got me. Like that was
Heart-wrenching, man.
Yeah, I was all the way in with that performance from that point. I mean, she was great. She was great and is great still. Fucking Danny Aiello. We're not gonna fucking gloss over Danny Aiello, man. Come on, what the fuck are we doing, dude? Great once again, man. Maybe playing the stereotypical Italian, criminal. No, but he's great, and I'm guessing you're just gonna echo me on that because I know you love the guy too.
He's such a comforting presence in all the movies that I've seen him in. Now, I'm not as big of a fan as you are, not even close, but I cannot think of a single time I've seen him on screen that I didn't enjoy watching him work. So
yeah, he's the best for sure.
Any big deal breakers for you in this movie?
Other than the potential for pedophilia lurking around every turn, that was a little troublesome. But no, as far as directing, the cast, the performances, I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it 3 months ago. Enjoyed it again, the other day. I do want to shout out real quick. I meant to mention some of the song choices on the soundtrack. Really enjoyed the way it closed with "Shape of My Heart" by Sting. I'm a big Sting fan. I used to be a big Police fan. Not so much anymore, but also too, always happy to, and I know you're really going to enjoy this, to get a little Bjork in the middle of a film really made me happy.
I didn't catch either of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Sting, not because I have anything against him, and same with Bjork. They're not my bag. I don't listen to their music.
Well, Sting does tantric and can fuck for 2 days, so I'm a huge fan of him.
I did actually hear about that.
He's the man in my book. And Bjork, I basically just brought up because I love Bjork and I figured you'd trash me for it. So
no, I got that's maybe it's my ignorance, but no.
Bjork's fucking badass.
I know she's a hell of a vocalist.
She is, and I always like her arrangements too. Just the sound of her music. It's got a big, huge, full, almost wall of sound vibe to it. I think it's great. All right, so Steven, I feel like it's time to get to the meat of the matter. Does this movie hold up to you? Does this shit hold up 26 years later?
Yes. What about you?
I don't know. Honestly, I feel like it does for me. I enjoyed this movie, and especially coming to this movie so much later in its life, I thought it worked out perfectly. Do I think the general masses would think this movie holds up? I don't know. But for me, I don't see anything wrong with this film. There's nothing that seems cheesy or played out or tropey. I think, me personally, I think the movie holds up. I don't know if that would be a common opinion.
Well, I mean, besides seeing the World Trade Centers and a couple music cues, there's really not a whole lot else to date this movie to 1994. I would say it's got like a 90s movie vibe, even without those things. But that's not a deal breaker for me. I really think that's not a barrier for most people. The barrier is going to be that your first watch through, you're going to constantly have this cloud over you about them ultimately ending up in a relationship.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of what, concerns me as to whether or not this would hold up for not me per se, but the the movie audience at large. We've become so and look, when it comes to things like pedophilia, absolutely we should stand 100% against it. But we've gotten touchier as the years have gone on, so I don't know if this would still play out today.
No, I don't know. Man, you had me stuttering on that one. I'm confident Luke couldn't make this movie now.
No.
Like you said, it should not ever be a subject that we even entertain, but especially not after what has happened in Hollywood here recently. It would not even remotely stand a chance of getting made.
This thing would never see the light of day. So I'm going to take it that you would recommend this movie to people?
I would. Yeah, I would.
I would recommend this movie if you don't have a queasy stomach for the themes contained within. If you're super easily triggered, I think, if you use words like problematic, then this movie may not be for you. But I would absolutely recommend this movie. I thought it was a fun watch.
Word.
Hell yeah. Well, I think that's about it. We'll wrap this fucker up. Go over to our social media video section on Twitter and Instagram to see what we have coming up next week. And maybe drop us a line, leave a few comments, let us know what you thought about the episode today. And we will be back with you next week. So for Steven, I am Josh. Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
I'm going to go pretty straight with this one. I feel like we covered the weird intro in the last one.